Don't forget this. It's your first thought when spirit communicates or when you ask a question. It's your first thought. It comes almost instantaneously. And sometimes, if the question's long enough, you'll have the answer before you're done asking the question. Welcome.
Thank you for being here today.
How can I tell the difference between intuition and imagination? This is a very common question and a common thing that we all have to go through when we are learning to use our psychic abilities. It is very common for it to be a combination of intuition and imagination when we start to receive messages from spirit. I think that what happens is we get the message from spirit, and then our intellect starts to kick in, and we start to think about what's going on. And then our imagination kicks in, and we start to build upon what we've received from spirit. And oftentimes, what happens and why people are partly accurate, but not completely accurate, is that they hear the first few things from spirit. And then they don't have control yet over stopping the intellect from thinking about what's going on. And so then the intellect and imagination contributes to the message. So to get over that, know this, don't forget this. It's your first thought when spirit communicates or when you ask a question. It's your first thought. It comes almost instantaneously. And sometimes, if the question's long enough, you'll have the answer before you're done asking the question. And over time, and I'll give you some ways to practice, but over time, what happens is you start to feel a certain way when it's intuition versus when it's your intellect. You may feel that way right off the bat, just depending on where you are with your abilities. But intuition comes as a knowing. It just feels like you just know, like it just feels solid within you. And there doesn't really seem to be doubt when it comes. It's just like, think about a time, I mean, I think most people have had this, where you just absolutely knew something. You didn't know how you knew it, but you just knew it. It was so strong in you. That's what it feels like when spirit communicates. It's just there. And there's really not a lot of time to say, I mean, there is time to say, is that real? But when it's hitting, it just, you really do feel it in a different way. And if you're not feeling that already, there's ways you can start to practice so you start to feel it. I didn't feel it right away either all the time, just sometimes. And so I wanted to feel it all the time. And I started with exercises, really simple yes and no questions for spirit. And that was so helpful to me because what happened was over time, I realized yes felt one way and no felt another way. And so how I started was I would oh, I remember the first one I did was asking if there was a parking place at my office. And before I could see whether or not there was a good parking place, I would ask, is there a place to park in one of the first three spots? And it didn't matter to me if there was or not too much because there's always a place to park. And if it was raining, I have an umbrella. And anyway, if I needed, I had a lot of stuff to unload, I could just pull up to the front door. So you want to make sure that you don't have any emotional attachment to what the answer may be, because the intellect will influence you if you're connected to what that answer is emotionally. Your intellect will come over, take over at that point. So it's really important to just let go of any attachment you have and then see what happens. Did you get it right? Did you get it wrong? Remember what it felt like when you got yes or when you got no as your thought, because it's going to come as a thought at first. And over time, you'll start to notice that yes feels one way and no feels another way. There's other ways you can do this, like here's an easy one. Say you need something like butter from the grocery store. There's like 100 different kinds of butter, and maybe you have one that is your favorite, but if you really need it that day, you could probably still find butter if your favorite one's not there. So again, detach yourself from any emotional emotions around getting it right, getting it wrong, or whether or not they have your kind of butter. And just ask when you pull into your parking place, ask, do they have blah, blah, blah butter today? Yes or no? And then go in there and see if they have it. Remember what it felt like. Remember, did I feel a particular attachment to getting this kind of butter today? And I really wanted the answer to be yes. That's what intellect happen. That's what happens with intellect. But if you just get a feeling about it, or if you just, hear yes right away and you go in and there's your butter, remember that. Remember what that feels like and keep doing it. Do it every day if you can in some little way. I still do it every day. Because I just want to stay in touch with it. And the more you connect with your spirit and with psychic abilities, you stay connected. So little things. I still do it with the parking lot at work, not if there's a parking space because the parking lot's huge and there always is. But I'll just say, are there any cars in the parking lot right now? Yes or no, before I can see the parking lot and get there. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Sometimes I still get it wrong. And I often notice that when I get it wrong, it's because I didn't want to run into anybody in the parking lot because maybe I was in a hurry, or maybe I hadn't used the lint roller on my black pants yet. Who knows? But um, there can be a lot of reasons for our intellect getting in the way. But basically, you learn the difference by practicing. There's really no other way to consistently learn it. Those episodes of just knowing, they may be few and far between for you, and they may not have happened at all. But although I think it probably has for most people. So if you practice this way, you can really get it nailed down, what yes and no feels like. And then it's really important to get it wrong. I say this almost every month. It's really important to get it wrong, and nobody wants to get it wrong. But the important part of getting it wrong is you know what wrong feels like, and you know what it feels like when your mind starts to get in the way. So if you're trying to give a message to someone from spirit, or even get a message for yourself from spirit, uh, and it starts to feel like that wrong feeling. You're like, okay, this is my intellect getting in the way because I know what that feels like now. So that's the best way I can tell you to tell the difference. I guess a couple of other things that come to mind are spirit guidance will never come in the form of making you feel crappy or making you feel like you've made like terrible decisions, or even if you're on the wrong track with something, they're not going to make you feel bad or feel guilty. That may come from you when you hear the message, but their message will be clean, and they'll never tell you what you have to do. They won't tell you you must do this. They will tell you if you do this, you might end up with this, or if you do it this way, it's going to work out for you. But they won't say, you're totally failing and you're doing this wrong, and if you don't do it differently, you're going to get stuck or whatever. They don't talk to people that way. Lower entities talk to people that way, and our minds talk to people that way. But spirit doesn't guide us in that way. It's always positive, the way that spirit guides us. We respond much better to that. That's been proven actually in experiments. So you could think about like also another way I've heard it described is intuition just feels like it's within you, like it just feels within you, like embodied, and imagination almost feels like something that had to create or be built. It's not instantaneous. All right, number two. What does it feel like when, oh, it's continuation of number one. What does it feel like when spirit is communicating with me? So I'll start this one by saying that I don't think spirit uses words. I think spirit uses energy, and that our brains make it into words. And so it feels like a knowing most of the time when spirit communicates. Now that those knowings can come in different ways. Like, when I say knowing, you probably think clear cognizance, the clear knowing sense, but knowing can come with clear audience or hearing spirit, which is usually in your own thoughts. It can come in clairvoyance, which is usually your own thoughts about seeing something in your mind. Um, but it's always like a knowing when it comes. It's I guess I could say it's like a vibration that most people feel differently. But if you've never practiced any psychic abilities and you haven't had a lot of experiences like that, you may not know yet. So again, the answer is going to be practicing so you can discern what it feels like for you. So the knowing is the strongest part for me. And it's just from practice, I'll just be like, okay, I remember what that feels like. I just know what this feels like when it's spirit. But sometimes it's like even different than that and a little more subtle where I'll give an example. I was standing somewhere with somebody recently, and she was asking me about Halloween and if I felt like I had to protect myself more at Halloween. I said, no, not really. And then I felt something move into our where we were standing. I said, oh, there's something here right now. And then it kind of whooshed through us. She said, did it just kind of whoosh through us? I said, it did. And so it was just like a subtle energy. It was just like it was kind of like I just knew something was there, but I felt it deep inside of me, like that wasn't me. And so I've heard it described that way by other people as well. So like a shift in the field, basically, is I guess how I would say that. It just feels like a shift. Some people get tingling when I give a message sometimes to a person and spirit really wants to like put an exclamation point behind it. I'll get tingles across my over my head or down my legs. That's a really common way that spirit's like, yes, you got it. Another way that may come for you, that comes for me, is I didn't know what this was for the longest time, and my mentor clarified it for me, and now it happens consistently. Is when I would also say something really powerful to a person, that spirit was like, "Yes, I'm so glad you said it." I would see a like a light on the wall, like a flash, like a star on the wall, and it would be like a white star with a black circle around it, and that was the exclamation point, like you got it. And so that is a way spirit can communicate with clairvoyance, is just showing that star to me, which is really just energy going into my brain and my brain making that, I think. But anyway, they can talk to us, they can communicate with us through the different clairs. The seeing, which again is usually your mind's eye, how you see it. It's not usually the star on the wall, although it could be. Sometimes you might see faces with your eyes open or closed. You might just see pictures of things in your head. Like yesterday, there was a reference to Christmas that I was supposed to talk about to somebody. And I just, in my mind's eye, I kept seeing a nativity scene. I grew up Catholic, and so that was the reference to Christmas, was a nativity scene. And so that was my signal to tell them, when nativity scene didn't match anything in their mind, I said, "What about Christmas? Is that significant?" And that was totally significant. So they'll they'll show us things, but it a lot of times will be in our mind's eye, or we'll hear things, but it'll be in our mind's ear. Like what's another example? Um, oh yeah, one time I was asking about someone's grandma, and I usually can discern, start to feel it, figure out who the people are, the people in spirit are, by how that what was wrong with their body when they died. But both grandmas died the same way. And suddenly I just had this very, very strong thought with that feeling of yes and knowing. And the thought was wig. I said, which one had a wig? And that cleared it up. We knew who it was at that point. So they communicate with us in that way. And it's like instantaneously when you ask. So like when they said, oh, they both died the same way, I was like, what else can I say? And wig was right there. That reminds me that it also, for me, feels like it comes in sideways, sometimes from the right side. And then recently I heard someone else say that sometimes it comes in through the back of her neck. And so it can be different for different people. And that's the importance of practice. Spirit will always work to empower you. They will never try to make you feel like you've done something wrong. That would be a lower entity, or the intellect getting in the way, judgment getting in the way in your own mind. Sometimes negative entities do that to throw people off of their path. So don't listen to that if you hear it. And remember that when spirit speaks to us, it is through thoughts and it is through feelings. Most commonly, it's not going to be hearing it through your ear or seeing it through your eyes. It can be, but most commonly it won't be. And you'll miss some important communications if you're waiting for the other stuff. Now, the other stuff you can grow, though, by doing exercises. And I think there's a question about that, so I'll hold off on answering it just yet. All right. This one is almost every month as well. And I love that people are asking this question so much, because it really reinforces to me that there's a massive spiritual awakening happening on the planet. Can everyone learn to be psychic, or is it a special gift? It is not a special gift. The way to make it a special gift is to start practicing and understanding how it works for you. Every single person on this planet is psychic. All the animals are psychic. Everything is telepathic here. And we are a conscious, we're not even here. We're a consciousness projecting our soul into this reality to have this experience through this body, and with each other and creating. And so we're all connected in to the network, and that makes us psychic. We're all connected. We're connected in one way is through heart math. The Heart Math Institute showed that they were able to measure the vibrations of our hearts outside of our bodies, like 3 feet at least, and then they were able to determine that those vibrations interact with each other when we come within that proximity. And I think we actually interact with each other when we're not in within that proximity. I think that all we have to do is think about someone, and there's quantum entanglement that happens. We are connected with them energetically, and we already are. It's just like through It's like through intention, it's like turning a radio dial to tune into a particular person or place. So it's not a special gift. Everyone is born psychic. However, it is not meant to be really, really loud and obvious, at least not for our whole lives, because we didn't come here for that. That's just who we are as spirit. We are all knowing as spirit, and we can move ourselves around just with a thought. We can change how we look when we're out of body. We don't have all these limitations. Um, but we do have some psychic abilities, and I think that we came here to have this experience very far away from who we really are, to experience what we are not. This is not who we are, and we're here to learn. And to part of that learning, a huge part of that learning, is to learn that we are spirit having this experience, and also to change our perspective around chaos, and to be able to, like, in every moment, try to reduce chaos. I think this is truly a chaos reduction trainer for the soul. Some people call it Earth School. So we were meant to not be so in touch with it at first, I think. And that through opening our heart and through paying attention to our intuition, which we all have, we are meant to grow and realize more and more and more. And that we were never really meant to be here alone. We were always meant to be guided by our spirit. I mean, I don't know how to say it without repeating myself. We are just already psychic. We are already a spirit projecting our consciousness into this world. They say that if you can, I've heard many scientists say that if they took all the atoms of all the people who are here on the planet, what is it, like 8 billion or 9 billion, a lot of people, and then removed all the space between the atoms of all the people, it would be like the size of a pea. And then I've heard some people say it's probably smaller than that, and that we're really not here. We're projecting in, having this experience. So why wouldn't we be psychic? When you start to have that mindset around it, you get more psychic. You're just like, I can't see any reason why I wouldn't be psychic anymore after what I've learned. Then you change your vibration from one of doubt to something that's higher up, empowerment. So if you think about, look up the vibrational frequency chart, you could think about the vibration of spirit, like way, way up here. And you could think about like joy and gratitude, like right here, and empowerment's way up here, but doubt's way down here. So if you're trying to meet spirit to get information, whether that spirit's your higher self or just connecting in with the reality, and you're way down here in doubt, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get information, especially accurately. The more you start to empower yourself around like learning, okay, why is this true? Then there's less room for doubt, and then everything gets easier. So that is one of the ways that you learn to improve your psychic abilities, is by getting rid of doubt. And for me, it was one of the number one ways that I grew my abilities, was actually learning why this was real and not just woo woo. I still have a very scientific mind. I grew up that way. I've always been that way. And I started realizing my psychic abilities when I was still full-time nursing. And it didn't make sense to me, and I couldn't talk to people about it in my field until I understood it better. And then once I understood it better, the unexpected surprise was I'm now more psychic because I don't have all that doubt anymore. The basic abilities we all have are clear feeling, clear sentience, and that's partly related to empathy. Just like I said with heart math, we can feel each other's emotions. They interact with our heart vibrations, interact with each other, and we can feel each other. And we can change how another person feels as well with how we feel. It's one of the psychic abilities, basic psychic abilities we all have, is the ability to feel each other and to feel the world around us. I don't think we were meant to be here without being able to feel into dangerous situations or good situations. We're meant to be guided by our feelings. It's built into us. And so that basic ability of clear feeling is one that we all have. Clear knowing is so similar to that, where you just know the answer. And I was talking about that in the beginning. Think of those moments where you just knew. You don't know how you knew, but you knew and you were right. Remember what that felt like, because the next time it happens, if you can remember what that felt like, you'll be like, okay, this is psychic. This isn't my mind. And then there's clairaudience and claircognizance. Those are gifts we all have, except I'll tell you this, that until you start practicing them specifically, they may be kind of dull for you. And I'll give you an example. For me, I really didn't have a lot of clairvoyance in the beginning. I really wanted to have it, but I didn't have it at first. So I learned exercises to do for clairvoyance, and other things like listening to binaural beats for clairvoyance, and it works. So sometimes it's like a muscle, and the more you work it, the bigger it gets and the more noticeable it is. And so any of the psychic abilities can be built. And if you want to build clairvoyance, start visualizing things. Listen to binaural beats. And I have a whole bunch of binaural beats, a whole bunch. I got like five on my website that I made. I started making them because I was experimenting with my own brain and my own psychic abilities. And I experimented with many different iterations of, I learned how to make binaural beats. It's a brainwave technology. And I learned how to create them and I started experimenting with them. And I noticed that all of a sudden I was having these big light shows at night when I would close my eyes. And then I could open my eyes in the dark room and the lights were still there. Then I started seeing faces and spirits and having out of body travel and so whether you listen to mine or someone else's, get some binaural beats that bring your brainwave state into something slower and use that for meditation and start trying to visualize things like the alphabet or numbers or shapes. Just be patient with yourself. It probably won't happen at first. The binaural beats will help that happen faster. And just, you know what a square looks like. Try to just bring a square up in your imagination with your eyes closed, or a circle, or an A, B, C, one, two, three, and spend time doing that. It didn't happen for me at first. I just knew from one of my teachers that it would happen if I kept trying. So I kept trying and it did. And then it turned into more, and it's still turning into more. And so that's a great way to build your ability to see spirit. Most people want that to be stronger. It's not the two strongest abilities we all have are clear cognizance, the knowing, and clairsentience, the feeling. And clairaudience and clairvoyance, they're pretty basic, but the basic end of it is the very subtle end of it. So if you want it to be louder or more obvious, you need to practice. And then the yes and no exercise is very good for clairaudience practice. And also another one you can do for like a meditation for clairaudience is to close your eyes somewhere and try to listen to every sound you can. You keep your mind quiet just by observing the sounds. There's always sounds, unless you're in a really quiet place. Try to go in nature and pick out every sound, or open a window and try to close your eyes and pick up every sound that you hear. And then also listening to binaural beats is helpful for that as well. It connects your brain in a different way and increases your ability for clairaudience as well. And that's from my own experimentation as well as my studies, where I noticed that after doing meditations with visualization and also the binaural beats, I started hearing things more like or especially in the early morning hours. This is a very common time for people because you're in a slower brainwave state to hear and see spirit. So try it when you're still in bed in the morning before you get up if you can. Try not to open your eyes yet. And what happened to me, and I've heard this from other people, is that they didn't used to hear things through their physical ear, but it starts happening. And the more you retrain your brain waves, and that's one of the main reasons I started using binaural beats was to retrain my brain, bring it back into one of its natural brainwave states. And so the more you do that, the more psychic you're going to get. So it's not a special gift. It's like a muscle of consciousness that you have to work and that you have to build and practice and notice. And I don't think it was ever meant to be really extremely easy. I think it's actually one of the things we're meant to work at and to build while we're here and to have that memory of who we really are as spirit. And I think that's part of our purpose. All the animals are psychic too. And if you want to talk to an animal, remember also they answer us with your first thought. If you ask them a question, the way that they answer will be your first thought for most people. And I guess I didn't mention, like, some people really do already have very strong abilities, but in general, we have to work at building them. And when we're kids, they're stronger. I heard things through my physical ears all the time when I was a kid, and I saw things other people didn't see. I mean, my family thought I was completely crazy because they didn't see the things I was seeing. But that tends to go away as we get older, and that's very common. I knew a girl once who said that she always just interacted with this unicorn. It was just a normal part of her life to talk to this unicorn. But when she was 14, the unicorn showed up and said, "This is our last interaction. You need to live a normal life." And she never saw it again. So I think we're supposed to grow out of that, but we just come in so open um, because we're just a little spirit entering this body, and we're still mostly spirit at that point. So it tends to fade as we get older. also we live in a world of doubt and a world that teaches us fear and that intellect is the only thing that matters. So, what are healthy ways to use my gift and to live without fear of it? So I think we've talked a lot about, or I've talked a lot about healthy ways that you can start to use it, and I'll try to expand on that if I think of something else. But let's talk about the fear part of it because that is a big thing that holds people back. I meet a lot of people. I do mentoring for psychic abilities. I meet so many people who even have stronger abilities than me, and they're not using them because they're afraid of them. And there's a lot of reasons that we feel fear around them. I mean, fear of the unknown is kind of just a natural thing, right? It just protects us. Fear of the unknown protects us. We're more careful if we're walking into a dark room and we don't know what's in there. We're not just going to go rushing in. So that's one of the reasons why learning about this, there's so many like scientific reasons why this is real and there's evidence of it. And so, like, you can even start by, well, you can listen to me, and I'll do these every month, and I've got videos on YouTube. And then Greg Braden is a really good person to listen to about this. Joe Dispenza is a really well-known person who can empower you about not having fear about who you really are as a spirit, having this experience, and that you're meant to use your psychic abilities. They used to be used very commonly. I mean, the cultures used psychic abilities to for like predicting weather and like for farming and for all kinds of things, like medical reasons. And then the church took over, and it wasn't allowed anymore to talk about this kind of stuff, and so it kind of just went away. And then the vibration of doubt and oh, what if it's from the devil? Or that's there's stuff like that in the Bible even. And you know, there are people who want nothing to do with me and call me, an evil witch because I'm, communicating with spirit. That's crazy. We're all communicating with spirit, whether we want to admit it or not. Yeah, a huge amount of what we think and feel at any given time is coming from outside of us. So there's a lot of fear that's been built in the world over many, many, many years of human history. And we feel that. That's in the field. And again, we're in the field. We're connected through the field of this reality. And the fear exists there and the doubt exists there. And when I was working as a nurse full time, I remember doctors making fun of people like me. I remember doctors making fun of people who were using Chinese medicine. So, I mean, that's crazy. And that was not in this state. It's not as open in other states as it is here, and that was in Louisiana. So anyway, there's a huge amount of doubt, and it's pushed out onto the public, and we're taught to like not trust what we can't explain. Well, we can explain it. It's just that you have to look for the answers harder because you're not going to see it on the news. So, understanding that you already are psychic, and if you don't use it, then you're missing out. You're here to use it. You're here to use it to make your life better and to have that memory of who you really are as a spirit. I really do think that's a big part of why we're here is to come in forgetting and then through the remembering we grow our soul. I think just when we start something new, it's normal to feel some fear around it. And the more you practice it and the more you realize, oh, this is just who I am, the less fearful you're going to feel about it. You probably still have nervousness if we're going to use psychic abilities for other people. And so that's just normal. That's just normal. I think it's partly because I hold myself to a high standard. And so maybe there's fear of messing up. And so if you're doing that, remember, it's good because it keeps you honest, but it's a slippery slope to getting in your way. I think the best answer I can give to this question is connect in with as much spiritual information as you can. Leave behind what doesn't resonate with you and listen to the rest and find out the reasons why, join things like this and listen to other things. On YouTube is free and there's a ton of information. Not all of it's legitimate, but there's a lot of it that is. And so find things that you can listen to that empower you to understand that really you are a spirit and at your very nature, you are psychic already. And any attempt to not use those abilities, I think, comes from a lot of time it's from outside pressure. So I hope that helps. Also, grounding, grounding, breathing. binaural beats, changing your brain waves. The 10-second breath, when you breathe in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds, over and over again, it sends a signal to your parasympathetic nervous system and it calms you down. And so if you're having fear around using abilities, and maybe your abilities are really strong, maybe some people are fearful because their abilities are so strong, they're seeing scary stuff. Find ways to come out of fear. If you have a habit of fear in your mind, because like that's just kind of what you've been used to doing is going to a place of worry, you have to learn to reestablish a healthier way of reacting in your mind. And we all have to deal with this. Like I do too. And and so we just have to reprogram that fear if it's really strong in us. And it's been that way for a long time because maybe we've had a lot of traumas or whatever. Learning to reprogram that is really important. And the breath, the 10-second breath is a really good way to reprogram that. So I say put in the binaural beats. I made one for releasing fear and sadness, and it's got the 528 hertz DNA repair frequency in it. And I had a difficult situation with a family member a couple of weeks ago, and I had just made this one. I put them in, I put the earbuds in. It has to be earbuds or headphones, and I put them in. And it almost instantly my brain just shut down and just shut off. And I didn't feel the anxiety anymore. And I took them back out after about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and I was like starting to spin in my head again. And so I said, okay, let me just see what happens. I put them back in and it went away again. I was like, that's really good. So do the 10-second breath, listen to some sort of meditation music if you can, binaural beats. Um, and imagine yourself just as spirit, just glowing and bright. And that will help you, I think, if you start practicing something like that when you get fearful. Another way to bring yourself back is to put one hand on your forehead and one hand on the back of your head and breathe. Close your eyes and breathe for 6 seconds. Tracing figure eights around your eyes while you breathe uh, is helpful. It will pull your energy back in and connect your brain hemispheres and make you feel better. It'll pull blood back up to the frontal lobe. They say that when get anxious or fearful, we lose like 80% of the blood flow to the frontal area of our brain, which is important for emotions and making decisions. And so just because we're all electromagnetic, when you put your hand there, you can pull that blood back up. Or alternatively, you can put your hands on the outside of your eyebrows and where those pulses are. You may not even feel a pulse on both sides, but if you hold it long enough, you'll have pulses on both sides again, and that means you're bringing the blood back up. So find ways to, let go of fear in your daily life. And excuse me, I think I have cat hair in my mouth. Um, and over time, you will not be so controlled by fear. Now, if you're seeing scary things because your abilities are really strong and maybe you're having astral or out of body travel and seeing things, know this, nothing can harm you unless in your soul, unless you believe it to be so. Fear will weaken you, and belief and empowerment will strengthen you. I will include in this replay when I email it out a link to some energy exercises that I like to do that will help you power up as well. So it's kind of like a retraining you have to do if you're living in a lot of fear. Or remember this too, that out of body, what we fear will materialize. It'll show up. And so if something shows up for you, that's not something you want to see, or that's really scary, or if it's coming at you, and this can happen for people. It's happened to me. Command it away. Just you have that power. And so remember that you literally can change that reality outside of body instantaneously. But if you have fears, those scary things are going to come to you in your dreams, and they're going to come to you in any sort of astral travel or out of body experiences that you have. And no matter where you are, you can always command it, and you can always remember that nothing can harm your soul unless you believe it to be true. And ultimately, every soul will eventually be okay, I think. But you don't want to get stuck there. So, well, I appreciate you being here. And for those of you who sent questions in who couldn't make it today, thank you for that. And I don't think I planned the next one yet for December, but I'll be looking at dates pretty soon for that, and I will include that in the replay email. So thank you again, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.